We're going to begin, though, with the growing tensions over President Trump's threats to send troops into more big cities. There were large demonstrations over the weekend, this one in Washington, where the National Guard is already on the streets there, and then in Chicago, which the president says could be his next target. Well, a new CBS News poll shows that most Americans, 61%, oppose the idea of National Guard troops being sent to their area. We also saw some major immigration crackdowns this weekend, too. So where do you want to start?
Well, Gail, we'll start with this. The Trump administration has started an immigration enforcement operation dubbed Patriot 2.0 in Boston, targeting what it calls the worst criminals. And it's just one of several Democratic-led cities the White House is focusing on. And top officials aren't ruling out asking for backup from the National Guard. Taking in some tennis at the U.S. Open on Sunday, President Trump also had to hit away questions about his intentions in Chicago after posting this manipulated image with a caption using a twist on a famous line from the Vietnam War movie Apocalypse Now, saying, "I love the smell of deportations in the morning." And after rebranding the Department of Defense on Friday, the president suggested the Windy City's about to find out why it's called the Department of War. Top Illinois leaders, including Democratic Senator Tammy Duckworth, denounced the president.
If that's what he's declaring, then let me make it clear. It would be an illegal order to declare war on a major city, any city within.
It's crazy because it's an admission that it's a military occupation, even if it's like tongue-in-cheek, which is, of course, illegal. Not that it fucking matters. Nothing matters anymore. But while I don't normally do this that much, I can't help but try to imagine what the Republican response would look like if Barack Obama was like, we're invading Texas. Like, Texas gonna learn today what the American military looks like. He didn't do that, and yet people in Texas acted as though he might do it hypothetically.
The United States, by the President of the United States.
Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker agreed, saying his state won't be intimidated by a wannabe dictator. But Trump responded on Sunday.
We're not going to war. We're going to clean up our cities. We're going to clean them up so they don't kill 5 people every weekend. That's not war. That's common sense.
White House border czar Tom Homan says Chicago and other so-called sanctuary cities should absolutely expect stepped-up immigration enforcement this week and doesn't rule out asking for help from the National Guard.
The National Guard are always on the table. We got to send additional resources to the problem areas, which are sanctuary cities.
New CBS News polling shows immigration and deportation issues are by far the most important issues Republicans are now judging the Trump administration on.
Stand up, fight back!
Thousands who protested in Chicago over the weekend and attended a Mexican Independence Day parade worry about what's to come.
It is a concern every day going out the house and being with my family or my friends. Something is going to happen.
2 new polls out from CBS and NBC News show most Americans do not approve of how President Trump is doing his job. It's a different story with this base. The CBS News poll pegging his approval rating among Republicans at 91%, though. The new polls coming as Trump puts his focus.
Virtually everything that I predicted would be unfolding is happening with spectacular speed. But I did not think it would happen this fast. I genuinely did not think that it would swing this fast. But to be fair, I also did not think Trump would fire off on all cylinders, push in every avenue. Let's take a look at the 2 key groups that have turned on Trump since the election.
On deploying the National Guard onto the streets of D.C. while implementing hardline immigration tactics. CNN Chief Data Analyst Harry Enton is here to run the numbers on all of this, and we do have some fresh numbers today. So, Harry, what are they telling us?
Yeah, I think they're telling us what we know about the Trump presidency is that Americans don't like it. So why don't we just take a look at these new polling that we have, and he remains underwater. Look, the CBS News poll, look at that. He's 12 points underwater. You want to go over to NBC? You want a different network? You can go to a different network, but it's the exact same story. 14 points underwater, double digits on this. This has been the story throughout much of the Trump presidency. He remains underwater as we get past Labor Day, Jessica.
And just how consistent have Trump's ratings been?
Yeah, okay. So this to me was the fascinating thing because, you know, I come on either every Saturday or Sunday or sometimes like this weekend, both days, and I talk about, oh, Trump's approval rating, he's underwater. I come up with some witty line or some line I think is witty, like he's more underwater than the Little Mermaid or something like that. And I decided to actually look, okay, how long has this dude been underwater? All right, so let's take a look at it. All right, negative net approval rating for Trump. Every single day in my aggregate polls since March 12th, in terms of number of days, 180 days in a row he has been underwater. That is basically half a year. You know, the NFL season started this week. You basically have to go back to the end of the last NFL season to find a day in which Trump was above water. The bottom line is he has been swimming with the fishes for a very long period of time, Jessica. What has changed since February, which was the last full month in which he was above ground? Well, take a look here. Trump's net approval rating among age 18 to 29. We're looking at the CBS News poll, but it holds true in the average as well. He was +2 back in late February. Look at where he is now. My God, that is a 32-point drop since the beginning of this year.
There's this poll that came out as well from Gallup. Is immigration a good thing for the USA? Yes, 79%, highest ever. No, 17%, lowest ever. To which I tweeted, you might have noticed that this number doesn't dip below 50%. It never dipped below America's views on immigration being a net positive has never dipped below 50%. Something I kept yelling at Dems throughout the election about. America is a nation of immigrants. Even at the peak of anti-immigrant sentiment, polls showed they favored conditional amnesty over mass deportation. That's it. I told you people were going to be very upset with Trump's mass deportation policies, and they haven't even kicked into the highest stage that he claimed he was going to kick it to. I told you this, and the discontent is rising.
How about Hispanics? He was at -6, a little bit underwater, but not too bad. But look at where he is now, -34 points. What is that? That's a 28-point drop since February. These, of course, were two groups that he exceeded expectations with back in the 2024 election, did much better than the traditional Republican has this century. But now these groups have absolutely moved away from him, and he is way underwater, 30 points and 34 points underwater. Those two groups have moved away from him in tremendous fashion, and it goes a long way in explaining why his overall approval rating, his net approval rating, has fallen through the floor and been negative for such a long period of time, Jessica.
And what issues does he do well with?
Okay, so there are a few things that I think that are so important to figure out here. Okay, so we're talking about groups, right? Is there any place where Donald Trump does well with? Well, let's talk about issues first. Okay, Trump's net approval rating. I got crime, immigration, foreign policy, the economy, trade. There's a whole slew of red, and this isn't Republican red. This is negative red, Jessica Dean. -2 points, -3 points, -12 points, -14 points, -17 points. On all the key issues of the day, he is underwater, Jessica. No wonder you can't survive in a presidency having a positive net approval rating when you're underwater on all of these different issues. And, of course, crime and immigration were two of his best issues, and now he's underwater on all of them. And then, of course, the economy, which was the reason he was reelected in the first place. This is the one I really circle here. He's 14 points underwater, which basically looks pretty much like those CBS News and NBC News polls, which have him at -12 and -14 points. I'll point out one last little thing. I'm going to jump ahead a question because I just feel like I'm in such a roll, Jessica Dean. I just feel like the energy with me.
I fucking told you, man. Ages 18 to 34 have the Gallup poll now has a the lowest ever positive approval of capitalism. 42% have a negative approval of capitalism. Trends in America's positive ratings of capitalism and socialism. We got to get those numbers up, obviously. But for ages 18 to 34, -11%, as in they have a higher they have a higher disapproval of capitalism than an approval of capitalism. 35 to 54, split 50 to 44 +6. And 55 plus, 62 to 35 plus 24. Among those without a college degree, it is a 47-48 split, favoring the negative side for those who have, for those devoid of a college education, who, you know, capitalism is fucking over even harder. They have a higher disapproval of capitalism than those who have a college degree. College graduates favor capitalism 58 and disfavor it by 39%. So whenever people fucking talk about how like, oh, all these like socialists, all these anti-capitalists, like they're all fucking college graduates, they're all college children or whatever. That's not the case. College liberals have a higher chance of attaining jobs, keeping jobs, making more money in the long run, and therefore have a more positive opinion over it. Amongst Democrats, the negative opinion of capitalism is at 55%. 42% have a positive, so it's -13. For the GOP, it is obviously a +50, so we know who loves capitalism. And for independents, it's a +6. If you look at men broadly, it's a +31%. It's a +31 for capitalism. Amongst women, it's -6. College really do brainwash people into being liberals, but in the political definition sense, yeah. When people say college brainwashes people into becoming liberals, they don't realize that it's not like a normal liberal. It's liberal as the correct like right-wing political term, liberalism.
Thank you very much. So we see all this negative, but the thing that you pointed out at the beginning that I think is so important, what is the one saving saving grace for Donald Trump right now, and that is the Republican base. What are we talking about here? Well, take a look here. Republicans who approve of Trump. Well, in the CBS News poll back in February, look at this. It was 90%. Look at where it is now. You mentioned it at the top. It's at 91%. As long as this Republican base sticks with him, as long as he's hearing the good news from the conservative talk radio host, as long as he's hearing the good news from the folks out there on the right, he's going to think he has very strong support. So I don't think that Donald Trump is going to do anything differently as long as this 91% holds. And as I said, it's steady as ever because that's actually a point higher than it was in February, Jessica.
Bro, this is exactly like Trump won now.